Oh, thank you, Honorable Ebo, to be on our show here today on Magnus Kpako GVA in our Magoni studios. We're happy to have you.
It is a kind pleasure to be with you and to see such an amazing contribution in uplifting the society and promoting leadership and good governance.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Now, you follow trends. You are a world-class commentator. And you understand the Nigerian situation as well as anybody. Mm-hmm. And so since you're here, we have to shoot it straight to you and ask, when people talk of inclusive growth, shared prosperity, in Nigeria, what do people understand by that?
You can't talk about prosperity when the institutions are weak. You can't talk about prosperity when the human capital is mismanaged. Mm-hmm. You can't talk about prosperity when, of course, there are no indicators to trigger that prosperity. I'll give you an example. Now, you see, people commonly talk about corruption in Nigeria. So we are going to fight corruption. We are going to fight this. You don't fight corruption. You manage corruption. No country in the whole world from history has ever, I stand to be corrected, has ever fought corruption.
No, they've never defeated, but they've fought it.
No, you don't fight. You manage corruption. That is why
accept it?
That's why, yes, you manage corruption.
No, but to manage, to say you manage means you accept it.
No. The issue is that if you take a country like China, for example, yes, the issue of drugs,
yes,
it's capital punishment. If you are caught,
yes,
you'll be sentenced to death.
They execute people who do
They keep executing people.
What are they doing? Are they fighting it or they're managing it?
They are managing corruption.
No, when they execute people who have committed drug-related crimes.
That execution is serving as deterrence.
Yes. So are they fighting it or they're managing it?
They are managing it.
When they're executing people?
They are managing it because it's still in existence.
All right.
When you are fighting, in every war, when you are fighting,
yes, there
must be an end in sight, or there must be an end in sight.
Yes.
And corruption is like insurgency. There is no strategy.
There's no end in sight first.
There is no end in sight.
Don't we want to be like maybe the least corrupt country in the world? Isn't that some end?
Yes, you are minimizing it by managing it.
Okay.
America is corrupt. Britain, people are corrupt and all of that. So when you manage corruption, you are trying to minimize it. But when you say you are fighting, that means you are looking at a zero tolerance. You are looking at 100%, achievement. So corruption is managed. It's not fought.
Do you manage polio?
No.
Do you manage poverty?
Polio's case, corruption is almost like poverty.
And that's what I'm saying. So which one? So how
you manage poverty. You manage poverty. You don't fight poverty.
No, but the new UN goals are targeting eliminating it.
It is not going to be possible to eliminate, eradicate poverty, because the word poverty is generic. Poverty is generic. The mere fact that Nigeria now, the middle class, is growing up. From the Renaissance capital research, I stand to be corrected, the middle class has now popped up. The number of people buying online now, cashless, has also gone up.
Yeah.
So with the emergence of this middle class, you won't tell me that young men like this, who possibly have gotten jobs ranging from 50,000 to 200,000, that is not to mean that they're not poor. Because at the end of the day, whatever money they're making, they're paying to the landlord. There are basic things that they require.
Yes.
They need a home for themselves.
Yes.
They need to dress well.
Yes.
They need to eat. They need to have that inner satisfaction. At the end of the day, you stop a young man on the road and you ask him, have you paid your tax? Or he's working there, they bring an electricity bill, energy bill, that he has not had lights for 3 months and all of that. So at the end of the day, he's unable to send his child to school because the public school, the teachers are on strike and all of that. So the money he is earning, no matter how much you pay, the money he is earning will not be able to meet up those physiological needs. So you can't say a man like that, the best you can do for him in a circumstance.
He's not a millionaire, but he ain't poor.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that poverty is generic.
Yeah.
Depends on the angle you are looking at it.
Yeah.
So poverty, corruption, disease
should be eradicated.
So you hear, but I will not join the school that it's possible for it to be eradicated.
Okay.
Because you still have a generation of people coming up every day.
Okay.
You still have people who are facing challenges of national development. And of course, GDP, as far as, to my mind, GDP, growth is all about GDP. But that does not mean that growth is development.
That's correct.
Development is a process, while the growth is just the GDP. So we can say Nigerian GDP is so high, but what about the indicators for growth? It's still there. And Nigeria is running like a country that is running, it said mechanized agriculture. There is no more mechanized agriculture again. The world is now talking about agriculture driven by technologies. That is food security. So the man, a governor of a state from a riverine state, will now go and buy tractors and distribute to politicians or distribute to farmers in his constituency. But what he needs is not the tractors. He needs a fishing implement because he is in a coastal state.
So that's an issue of poor policy. Nigerians has been found don't really pay taxes as much.
So tax heaven.
Then when we look at our tax revenue as a percent of GDP, we're at about 6%. Compared to even countries like Ghana that are like in the 15% range. Most other countries, 20-something% range. Now, people may say we're not doing that because we're an oil-producing country. But if you look at Mexico, Russia, even Venezuela, they have higher tax revenues as a percent of GDP. What is it? What's happening there? We just don't. And now we don't have internally generated revenue amongst many states. What's the problem there?
There's a key issue I want you to also look at. The issue of national consciousness, which is very key. I was expecting that an agency like National Orientation Agency should be able to sit back in its thinking room and bring in people to devise a means of building the issue of national consciousness. Sure. National consciousness will now trigger. These issues are issues of responsibilities. Is issue of civic responsibilities. Are you aware that even some big men who are carrying the tax of national honors, they don't even know how to sing the Nigerian anthem? It's as bad as that. But I sat very close to one of the awardees in the International Conference Center when they were doing this National Merit Award. And the president came in and there was a national anthem. I sat very close to him. I was listening. I was listening. He couldn't sing the national anthem.
Well, maybe.
But I was embarrassed that
maybe he didn't want to sing it.
I was embarrassed that he started. Nobody prompted him. He started to sing, and he got somewhere. His voice went down, and I was very conscious of it. But you will be surprised that he was honored by his country. They had a medal on his neck and all of that. So those are contradictions. In some other societies, people walk up to tax offices to go and declare their income and pay. In Canada, people do that.
Why is that? That's the question.
It's the issue of the national consciousness, because the perception of the average Nigerian is that, why am I paying tax? That electricity is not coming. NEPA people will come and claim that they're giving us light. They will turn around and come and carry the transformer. That the water board people are not, they prefer to sell water with tankers instead of allowing the water to be in the pipe. That NNPC, people are stealing money there, so why am I paying tax and all of that? So there has to be some kind of, we have to galvanize a social mobilization machine.
My question, Honorable, is always, who are we that will galvanize?
What I'm talking about is that we have to start it from home.
Who starts it from
home? For example, there are two institutions which has collapsed though. And we do apologies. Okay. When I grew up, if you drive a vehicle, somebody drove a vehicle to my village. He's from my village. Some years ago, I was in class 3. The man drove a 404 and came to the village. The village head quietly went in the night and told the CID that doesn't know the means that guy has been out of this community for 1 year. And he has come back with a new car. And the CID came the following day with plain cloth. They now called the town crier to call everybody. Everybody went, my father and all of that went. And they called the guy and questioned him. He explained that he had a contract with Mobile Producing that time. He didn't know the CID was there. He said, okay, no problem. They tipped the CID. The CID came and took him to the police station. And I can tell you that for you to even be interrogated in the police station, your family is stigmatized.
Absolutely.
We played street football. One of our football then called Wembley, very light ball, went into the man's compound. Nobody wanted to enter there to go and carry the ball. That was the society I grew up to meet. Value orientation. Okay? At the end of the day, nothing happened. But the gentleman could not cope with the community. But today, if that man had driven the Infinity after 3 days from the process of robbery or anything and come back to the community, they'll give him a chieftaincy title. You are aware when one of the former governors, when EFCC went to his place to go and arrest him, even Fred Ajudwa, who is in Kpako prison, at one time when they went to go and arrest him, the people resisted. That is he the only person. So titular institutions are traditional rulers. Why do you give chieftaincy? If you are giving chieftaincy to Mr. A out of error, then he ends up being somebody who is undeserving of such title. Why don't you strip him off? So that is our own traditional method of national merit, chieftaincy. But they're doing that. So there are critical elements to play in this issue of galvanizing people.
So this is what change has come to change. This is what President Buhari has
Well, it is not about... Buhari is just wanting to come and, in my own opinion, I think he's just wanting to come and build up the consciousness, you know. He wants to come and create, you know, change that perception. That is no longer so, that you have a responsibility to. So it's building a national consciousness. For example, look at religious institutions. There are things going on in churches today. You and I as Christians know there's no way those things could have happened some years ago. You know? So, but these are people who are supposed to be the change agents. They will use the churches, and you should tell people in the church that if you pay tithe, you don't pay tax, that it is an offense. So now, why do you pay tithe as much as you do? You don't pay tax. Because these things are like the issue, the twin pillars of justice. You know, you can't pay tithe without paying tax. Because you are violating the words of, you are violating the scripture. So these people are supposed to build this emphasis from the church, or mosque, whatever it is.